let's jump in. It's obviously been a huge couple of days for the Lionesses. Everyone is super, super happy. England thrashed...
suddenly England's going to win the Euros now.
Well, of course they will. They thrashed Belgium 5-0 at Ashton Gate on Friday, putting them top of their Nations League group. 5 goals are from 5 different goal scorers, 2 clean sheets on the bounce, and showing that the substitutes can really make an impact. Rach, you were at the game. I mean, what a game it was. It felt very, very comfortable, very early doors. It felt like they could have had more goals there. Alessia Russo hitting the post twice. And when I say hitting the post, I mean destroying the post.
Maybe knocked the goal down.
Yeah, like shattering the post. But yeah, Rach, what did you make of it?
I think it's the performance everyone's been waiting for. I think people expect that performance every time the Lionesses step out onto the pitch. But I think it's what we know the team can do and how the team can play. And I think for a lot of people, it's probably a bit of a, oh, thank God, they still have that in their locker. Especially when you factor in the players that are missing. You know, you're still not got Fran Kirby, Georgia Stanway, Lauren Hemp, Alex Greenwood. You know, if England can play that level without them, imagine how they can play with them. And I just thought, I thought the 2 wingers were so impactful. We've always talked a lot about the LJ and Lucy Bronze link up. LJ was on the left. Beth Mead, Lucy Bronze, unreal. Like, that side of the pitch was incredible. So it took them a little while to maybe unpick Belgium. But it did feel like the kind of game that once they got the first goal, the floodgates had opened a little bit. They found their confidence, their swagger, a lot of standout performances, exactly what you want.
100%. I think, England obviously dominated, had most of the possession, especially in the first half. I thought they were absolutely on it. And it just felt unlucky, I think, in those final moments that they couldn't quite convert. And I think you're completely right. Once that first goal... But when it gets sort of a little bit nervy, you're thinking, is this just going to be a game where they just go at it? There's like shots on targets and loads of shots, but nothing actually materialises. But I think you're completely right. That first goal going in, it did open the floodgates. And like, what a goal it was. I mean, racking up 20 shots, 70 would have been incredible. 7 on target, 68% of the possession. But yeah, I mean, who would you think was the most standout player from this game? I think you might have already mentioned her briefly at the top of the show.
This is the thing. I actually think quite a few of them played really, really well. Lucy Bronze obviously got player of the match, I think, and had an outstanding performance. I was so impressed with Beth Mead. She got to play the full 90, I think, as well, which I think was really good to see, because at one point I swear she got announced that she was coming off and then she didn't come off. So I don't know what changed there or whether the announcer got it wrong, but she was so impactful on that right hand side, and her link up play with Lucy Bronze and Ciara Walsh. They were playing some lovely little triangles. Their reading of each other's movement. When Beth Mead would invert, Lucy would come out wide. When Lucy would invert, Beth Mead would come out wide. Ciara Walsh was able to read both of those so well, and they were so dangerous, and so much of their attack was coming down that right hand side. Thought she was really unlucky not to get a goal. There were 2 almost assists that she made, which really impressed me. There was one where she kind of fell as the ball got away from her a little bit, and in order to get the ball, she kind of threw herself on the ground and swung a leg in. It still got a superb ball over to Alessia Russo. And then there was another one where the ball looked like to have gone out, and she somehow managed to get it back to Russo. And I think they were the times maybe that Russo shattered the post. But yeah, her link-up play with Russo was so good. I thought she was unlucky not to get a goal or 2 herself. And just great to see her back in that kind of level, because I think she's faced a lot of unfair criticism this season. And to see her come back with that kind of performance was super impressive. So there were lots of players. It's not to say other players didn't stand out, but she was one for me where I was kind of like, wow, she's dropping back and defending. I was watching it back thinking her movement is so good. Like, it's so, game intelligence was so good. So yeah, I really enjoyed that partnership on the right.
Do you think it was a little bit harsh that Jess Park didn't start, or given Beth Mead's performance, it actually validated that decision? Because obviously Serena only made 1 change from the side that beat Spain 1-0. But obviously when Jess Park did come on, the impact that she then had in the game was absolutely outstanding. I mean, the goal that she scored, sort of pouncing on that mistake, running all the way down, and then calmly. So it felt like time also almost stopped when she had the ball. As soon as she neared the keeper, it kind of felt like she lifted her head up. She had that kind of moment of composure and kind of slotted calmly past. There was never a doubt in my mind when she was running towards goal that this wouldn't be a conversion. I just think, it was a really hard decision, I think, for me, between Jess Park and Beth Mead, and both of them, I think, had absolutely outstanding ones.
Well, I think the fact like that Jess Park. No, I don't think it was harsh. First of all, I think with the experience that Beth Mead has, she deserved to get minutes and game time and start a game. So no, I didn't think it was harsh. Jess Park is young; she'll have plenty of opportunities to start games. I think the fact that Jess Park is versatile and has said she prefers playing more central, maybe fed into that as well. And the fact that she came on for Ella Toone shows that she kind of prefers playing in that central role, and probably why she had such an impact, because something England were doing was they were trying to play the ball through the centre more than maybe I've seen. And I thought the central players were doing a good job of kind of feeding that back out again, or, for example, Jess Park cutting through and scoring. So I don't really feel like it was necessarily an either or between Beth Mead and Jess Park. I think Jess Park was probably always going to come in to one of those central roles. So I wouldn't say harsh. I think it's good to see that there's difficult decisions, because you don't want to be like, oh, we obviously know who the starting 11 is going to be, because I wouldn't start them. Like, all of the players there are able to start. And I think what people want to know, like in the Euros before, is that there's players who'll come off the bench and the quality won't dip. It will go up, or it will, be as quality and intense as we've seen on the pitch with the starting 11. And I think Jess Park showed that England still have that.
I think you're completely right. The competition for the starting 11 is so hot right now. I mean, if you're kind of asking, what is the standout player for me, I would say, I think LJ had an absolute cracker of a game. I think the deliveries that she was sending in were absolutely phenomenal. I think every time she got up, I feel like she was looking for players in the box, and the pinpoint, obviously we've seen it so many times where she can whip a ball in, very minimal throwback in terms of her foot, and it just looks like she's going to pass it or something like that, and then obviously the whipped in cross, and someone normally gets on the end of it, because she delivers them in such dangerous areas. So I think definitely LJ. Also got to make a massive mention of Kira Walsh getting her first international goal, which is absolute madness. I think when people think about that stat, they're like, how has Kira Walsh not scored for England before? This is insane.
She doesn't shoot.
But it goes to show, though, when she does shoot, like how close she gets. I mean, she was so unlucky not to have a shot, not to have the goal earlier on in the game, sort of just about clipped the post. And I've got to give a little bit of credit to Nikki Everard, because it did look like she got maybe a tiny bit of a small finger to the ball, just to let it nick the post. But I thought she was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was kind of her on flying form, and to get that goal, you could see how much it meant to her and the squad, because everyone ran over to her. It was a huge moment.
It was funny because I actually said to myself at one point during the game, oh, Kira, you've got to shoot. Like, just in my own head, I said that. And I was kind of rolling my eyes thinking, if she shot more, she was open, there was opportunity. And I think because the game was opening up more in front of her, and she was noticing, okay, I'm getting more opportunities, this is the game where I need to shoot more. I think she gets told that. Serena says, they always say to her, you need to shoot more. So yeah, you could see that maybe that it was coming, because there were times where you're like, oh, you should have shot. So yeah, wonderful to see. And another, like, when you think about it, the Chelsea players generally in the game, and I know that's become a bit of a narrative, but they all really stepped up to see 6 starting, I think it was 4 on the score sheet, which, top of the league for a reason. They've got some of the best players.
Oh, don't. For the love don't keep
well
talking
done,
about
Chelsea.
How brilliant they are. England have now put 11 goals past Belgium in 2 games at Ashton Gate. Do we think, it didn't really feel like a massive test for England. It kind of felt like I was expecting more from the Belgium side. Belgium had 4 shots to England's 20, and none of those 4 shots were on target. Belgium are a good side, but it just didn't feel like they turned up at all. Rach, what was your take on it?
They were missing some players, some key players, so you have to factor that in. But I do think they're a team, I think they're pretty good at scoring goals. Like, I don't think that's, and I think that's what makes them dangerous. That when you see how they played in the reverse leg last time, they beat England in King Power Stadium in Leuven. So they are able to put the ball in the back of the net, and they have some really dangerous players. And I think, Missy Poe always stands out for me. She seems to be everywhere on the pitch. She's such a grafter. But you look at some of their previous games, even against Spain, they scored 2 goals, beat Hungary 5-1 twice. And I appreciate they don't always beat teams up and around and above them, but they do pose quite a threat, I think, when you come up against them. And I guess they didn't obviously come out in the same way, say, a Spain would, where it was a much more open game, but they didn't equally park the bus. So I think that was it. They are a team that are willing to try and get forward, and I think you saw that a couple of times where they did maybe try and send the ball over the top, and they've got ways of getting forward and being effective on the counter attack. So they are a challenge, and England would have known the last time they played they lost. So that will hold something. They will hold that over you as much as they can, and it could have been a stumbling block. We've seen it happen before with England against teams they should do well against.
100%. I don't think it's a case of, obviously it was a bit of a thrashing, but at the same time, there can't be any room for complacency going into the next fixture tonight. England now have 7 points from 9 in the Nations League, top of their group, 1 point ahead of Spain. Belgium sit bottom of the table on 0 points. But again, Rach, like you said, at any moment, anyone could trip up. They're obviously playing each other again tonight. Do we feel like it's going to go the same way? That's the thing, you can't expect that it will do. So I feel like you have to go out there all guns blazing again and try and deliver the same thing so quickly after facing each other. It's that old cliche that the team that loses kind of learns more from the loss. I can't go back to Chelsea and Man City, Rach. Let's move on. Come on.
But I do think Belgium will have learned a lot. I think England are missing players that were in the squad. You touched on LJ. It's a shame she only managed to play one half, because imagine maybe how many more goals England could have got. Even more. Well, actually, they scored loads in the second half. But LJ was really sending in some pinpoint crosses, free kicks. So missed her in the second half. So they don't have her available. Alessia Russo's not available. So there are some key players not in the squad. So I think there are going to be some changes for England. So while Belgium maybe will have learned a lot from the first game, I don't necessarily think it's going to be the exact same England that goes out to face them.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you just mentioned there about LJ's injury. She's been replaced by Jess Naz, after being ruled out with that hamstring struggle. So, yeah, there is going to be a couple of changes ahead. One of the changes I'm super, super excited to see what happens with is obviously the goalkeeping position. Hannah Hampton obviously started in goal over Mary Earps on Friday. Do we see it being a game that we have one keeper starting, the second keeper starting the second? It's almost like the second leg, I suppose.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it's going to happen.
Like, they're quality goalkeepers. You're not kind of getting a lesser performance by changing the goalkeeper. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think Belgium had 4 shots and none of them on target. So Hannah Hampton wasn't overly worked in that game. But I wouldn't see why there'd be any reason not to change them, like to just get another cap in, to get minutes in, to get your head in the game with your squad again and keep those minutes in the tank for both goalkeepers, because you need to go into the Euros knowing you can 100% trust both goalkeepers, and I think they can.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would be very shocked if Mary Earps wasn't chosen. It would almost feel like a little bit of a nudge to what's going to happen in the Euros if Hannah Hampton started again. So I do think there is a little bit of emphasis placed on this next decision. And I do think, what I can't quite work out is whether we should be placing any emphasis on which keeper starts the first bit of these Women's Nations League games, whether actually Hampton started this game because that was sort of preference for her, or actually, or whether actually it was just a kind of eeny, meeny, miny, mo, both of you are going to have some game time or not.
I don't think it would be that.
No, it wouldn't be. Do you know what? I'm being contrite, but
I think they both have different attributes, and it would be based on what they expect from the game. Maybe they expected more from Belgium. They wanted the ability to be able to go along with a Hannah Hampton over the top ball, whatever that might be. And we all know how good she is with her distribution. So it would be very much a game decision, I think. But equally, they know that both keepers are good enough to be able to deliver on whatever the game plan is. So personally, I wouldn't super read into anything really, and I know we all love to. We're like, what does that mean if this happens and then that happens?
Come on, add some drama and spice to it.
I'm never going to do that. You can't. I will not be drawn.
Please, a little.
Can we take a minute to shout out Michelle Adjumang?
Yes.
Getting a call up.
Give her I know flowers.
Obviously, Chloe Kelly was out of the squad, which is a shame with a foot injury. She wasn't a replacement for Chloe Kelly, but it was just, there was a litany of players that they seemed to be one of the camps with some of the most, like, this player's now out and this player's now in. So Michelle Adjumang, I got to watch her in the under-19s on Saturday in St. George's Park after the seniors game on Friday, where she played well, and the under-19s qualified for the Euros that evening. So on a high, and it's great that she's then made that jump up into the senior squad. It's brilliant. Look, she might not get minutes, but to be in and around the environment is really important. And even players like Jess Naz, I know people get really stressed when some of the youngsters make it and then come back out of the squad. It's so normal. That is absolutely normal to have those up and down yo-yo players who will eventually cement their place in the squad. They're not going to necessarily take the place of a more experienced player if that player is available. So really exciting for her to get there. She might not play, she might not be in the next one, but to know that opportunity is there. And I think that's why that under-23 squad is so valuable, because if you don't make a senior squad for a particular window, you're not far off and you've still got international football to play. So 100%. Very exciting.
It does feel like there is this kind of like horribly young generation of England footballers now coming through. When you look at like the Kiara Keatings, your Jess Nazes, your Jess Parks, now Michelle Adjumang, it's wild to see the kind of talent that is going to be coming through. And I think we're going to touch a little bit more on the England World Cup bid for 2035 a little bit later. But when you kind of look at what is in the pipeline for then, I feel quite confident. Some other obviously unfortunate news for England. Alessia Russo took a knock to her ankle in the game and has also returned to Arsenal for further assessment. Listener Catherine has asked us on X/Twitter, do you think the April international break should be scrapped given the amount of injuries that might impact the end of the WSL season and the final stages of the Champions League? Interesting
This question has like kind of come out of left field. I've seen it a bit floating around on social media. I've never heard about people wanting the April window scrapped. Like we talked about, the window in May, June, for example, where we've all said like, why do we have this window here? That's crazy, particularly before a major tournament or at the end of a long season. The September window has been called into question. All these things, I've never heard it for the April window. It just feels a bit reactive from probably Chelsea and Arsenal fans, because their players have taken knocks and their players are in the Champions League. It's part and parcel of the game. You play international football. There's always a window here. There's always internationals littered throughout your season. And I think realistically, the management of minutes and loading, majority of that responsibility falls on the club manager, and it doesn't fall on the international coach. I think they're coming in, they're playing a Nations League, they have to win these games matter because they're part of a competition. Your coach isn't going to go, oh, well, you're our best player, but like you're in the Champions League, so I'll rest you. That's not Serena Wiegmann's responsibility. And she did make a number of changes, and she is, I think, trying to manage the load. And there's been questions in the past why sometimes she's made substitutions late or whatever. But I think it's a bit unfair to blame international football for it in this instance. And I appreciate that your Chelseas and your Arsenals are playing lots of competitions, and it's why we talk about squad depth when it comes to the clubs and why they need to be rotating more and managing their squad depth. And I just think, it happens, and it doesn't mean you get rid of the window because Arsenal and Chelsea essentially are in the semi-finals of the Champions League. Like that's, maybe a bit hyperbolic a little bit and a bit reactive. But I think realistically that loading stuff, and I think a lot of them, like I think your Chloes and your Alessias, I think, are maybe impact injuries. I think the same with DVD from Domslar. I think Katie McCabe's similar. If she hadn't picked up the second yellow and got suspended for this Ireland game, I think she would have played some part of the game tonight, even though she has a calf strain or something like that. She's able to play. They were just going to, Carla would have managed her minutes. And so in terms of some of the injuries, I think the internationals have been pretty good at going, we're going to just be cautious. We have enough to kind of get through without you. We will be cautious. But this idea then that like we should scrap a window, I think is a bit maybe OTT, and maybe people will come for me for that. But
100%. I look forward to reading the comments. But also, like, the games do have to be played at some point. It never really feels like there is a perfect time for the games to take place. So, wherever you kind of place them throughout the season, it doesn't feel like there's ever going to be a kind of perfect fit. I think maybe, obviously we spoke about it last week with the women's sevens, World Sevens tournament. That's kind of, those are the ones that you kind of think, okay, well, this seems a bit superfluous to the calendar. But yeah, the April international break that's just part and parcel of playing football at this level.
Also, like, international squads have doctors and nutritionists and strength and conditioning coaches, and they're going to tell the manager whether a player is fit enough, able enough to play 90 minutes, to play 70 minutes, to play a half, whatever it is. It's not like they're just going, well, tough. I don't care if you're limping, get on the pitch. Like, there is actual science behind how long a player plays and for what reason. Like, look at Lucy Bronze. She's a friggin' machine. I don't know how she's doing it. And everyone keeps bringing up her age, which is annoying because she's younger than me, but she's still bombing up and down the pitch. And I know we're going to get to 2035, but the bloody joke going around that she'll still be probably playing like at this rate.
Well, she actually will. She actually 100%. She'll be in her 40s by this point.